Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. If I sound stupid or silly right now, it's because I'm dealing with an illness which had invaded my immune system about 3 days ago and is still clinging on for dear life. But rest assure you, I feel fine. I don't feel sick. I don't feel weak. I don't feel like I'm dying. I simply just have a little bit of a sinus issue at the moment. And let me tell you this. I would much rather have this little lingering issue than feeling like I'm dying, honestly. Because as annoying as this is, and let me tell you, it is annoying, feeling like you're going to die when you're sick must be the worst feeling you've ever felt in your life. And being able to overcome it, but still having that period of time where you're like, I feel so bad I might die. You know, I've been there like maybe one time in my life when I had the flu. It was like years ago when I had it for like 2 weeks, and the fever would just not break. And I felt like, dude, I'm actually might be, I might be nearing towards the end. Like, this is just so bad. I don't know what's going on. I might burn out. Luckily, I prevailed. But the feeling of this lingering illness, whatever had plagued me 3 or 4 days ago, that's still with me, is super annoying. One, because I sound like an idiot. I hate when I get sick because I know it's going to affect my voice. My voice is already as bad as it is. Sickness just makes it even worse. And then I just feel like I don't want to speak or raise my voice because it'll crack. Doesn't sound strong. Sounds congested, nasally, which I can't stand. And then I have to speak to people. And it's like, I just wish I could. I just wish I had like an option to make my voice not sound sick in public. That would be an awesome thing to have, but that sadly does not exist. So I must deal with the side effects of being quote unquote sick, which is, again, annoying. It all started when I was trying to go to sleep one night, and all of a sudden I was very congested in half of my nose. And every time I tossed and turned or changed positions when I was sleeping, it would not go away. If you guys have been sick before, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. That type of sickness where it begins at night, and then you're like, what's going on here? This is weird. And then you try to fall asleep and it takes you forever, and you're like, oh, I'm staying up later than I should. I should be asleep. Why am I not asleep? And then you're like, well, the next day is gonna be rough. Sure enough, it was. And then it just continued after that, and it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be, but I just hate being sick. I really, really do. It just makes me annoyed at my immune system. I look at it and I'm like, what is going on? Why did you allow me to get sick? What is this? This is unacceptable. How could you possibly allow me to get sick like this? Such a weak sickness too. So weak. Right? It's not life-threatening. It's just annoying. But you let it happen. You let it get through the gates of my immune system. And now I must pay. For what? I don't even know what I did. All I did was treat you well, exercise, eat good, lift heavy. And now look at me. I'm a weak man. Weak, sniffly, nasally. Sounds funny. Like, what did I do to deserve any of this? I ask you. But it's just something that, happens every once in a while with me, this type of sickness. And you listen to my voice long enough to know like how I feel about this type of sickness, and I just get annoyed so much whenever it happens. And I can't control when it happens, but it just happens. Sometimes I will be in the vicinity of people who are sick, right? We all been there. We've all been to school or to work where you're by somebody that's not feeling well, right? That you question, like, why are you here? But then again, you would do the same thing. If you're feeling a little sick, a little under the weather, you're probably still going to show up. You're still going to go because you're like, I'm not going to miss today because I have a little bit of a sniffle. What am I, a wimp? What am I, a wuss? I'm like, no, I'm going to toughen up and clutch up and battle through the day because that's what I do. So I try to pinpoint like what exactly got me sick, but I can't really do that. I don't necessarily remember an opening of where I was vulnerable in my defenses and was invaded by bacteria. I have no idea. How it would happen, I don't know. I truly don't know. Airborne, surface, touch, did I rub my eye? No idea, right? But it just happened, and I'm like, shoot, man. Just mad at myself. That's what always happens. I'm never mad at the person that got me sick. I'm mad at myself because I'm like, why was my body not ready to fight off whatever the heck invaded me? Whatever intruder that crossed the border of my body and got me sick, How come I was not ready for it, And you know what? I just, when I take care of myself, I just tend to sleep a lot and not do a whole lot of stuff. Just kind of, lay down and just like relax and rest up. That's usually how I take care of myself. But honestly, I feel like I should just go and bask in the sun. And hopefully that kind of helps me out. I've heard that vitamin D is really good for you when you're sick like this. So maybe after I record this pod, I'll just go in the sun and just like soak it up like Superman. And just maybe not for like a long time, like for like a few minutes. I imagine like when they tell you to get sunlight when you're not feeling good, that it's like a little bit of sun. Like you don't need to get like a suntan to get energy from the sun, I would think. I don't think that it's like you need to be out there for hours to get enough vitamin D, right? I don't even know like where you even absorb it. Is it just like on your skin? Is it like from your eyes, your head? Like how do you even like absorb like vitamin D from the sun? Is it just got to be on you and you're like, oh, and you get like recharged? I honestly have no idea how that even works. I know that they have vitamin D pills, vitamin D tablets and stuff like that. Like that's like to ingest it into your body to get it, I guess, a more quicker way than through the sun. But like, they always say like go get some sunlight, but I want to make sure that I'm getting the sunlight correctly and it's not incorrectly, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't want to get sunburned, but I want to get some vitamin D. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to do it incorrectly. So, like, instead of, like, getting nourishment, I get sunburned. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that it's possible to just get sunburnt and no nourishment from the sun. I think that it happens either way. You get so much sun exposure and nourishment that it leads to sunburn. So I don't know. I'm stupid. The show, but yeah, I'm just annoyed at the moment. Moving on to some a TV season review. I had finally completed season 1 of The Paper on Peacock, which, if you don't know, is a spin-off series from The Office. And No, I'm not. I'm not trying to say like it's in the same type of style as The Office and saying that it's a spinoff. Like, no, I really mean that the paper is a direct spinoff in the same universe as the Office TV show was. I'm not kidding you. That's real. Um, and when this was announced, right, that they're going to be making a Office style straight up spin-off series in the same universe as The Office, in the same style as The Office, like a mockumentary type of show surrounding a newspaper and all of its employees involved in in uh in writing a newspaper, like a daily paper, right, that you pick up at a store, right? I was interested, no, I was intrigued, but also skeptical because the details were coming out when the show was getting closer and closer that it was indeed a spin-off and like a in the universe as The Office, like, right, in the one of the biggest dead giveaways of that was that Oscar Nunez, the actor who plays Oscar Martinez, the accountant in The Office, is the same exact character as he was in The Office, now in the new show The Paper. And when I heard about that, I was honestly um a little, I wouldn't say worried, but I was like a little like, okay, so like they're leaving like the door open in case like whatever happens in this show, right, with the new characters and new story and new scenarios that they have in this show, its own original show, right, The Paper, they have something to fall back on and give a little bit of the Office flair and maybe Office what would you call it, like a way to bring in Office characters into the new Office style TV show from the creator of The Office, if that makes any sense. um I don't think that's how they envisioned it in the beginning, like if they ever needed some extra firepower from like or some Office nostalgia to be put into it. But that's kind of how like I see a way for them to make it so that if this show in general, with the new characters that they've created and new scenarios and new setting fail, they have a way that they can kind of bring in Office characters into the new show to kind of jazz it up a bit. Now, that's just a theory. It could definitely be a possibility. That's definitely something I could see happen if need be, if the show is truly not as good as people want it to be. But, nonetheless, I will be talking about the show and reviewing it, what I liked, what I disliked, where I can see it going, where I hope it doesn't go, and how long it's got, really. So, like I mentioned, right off the bat, Oscar is from The Office, now in The Paper, in the same universe as both shows. And it's made very clear in the first episode by Oscar himself, the character, and the documentary crew that is filming these new people. It's made like clear in like the first like 10 minutes of episode 1 how Oscar Martinez was from the Scranton office in The Office. And at the beginning there's even like a like what happened to the office building, or the office in that building that they worked in the show. And so much as, here's a spoiler real quick, Bob Vance from Vance Refrigeration is in the first episode, reminiscing of the time that Dunder Mifflin was in the same building as Vance Refrigeration. So we already got nostalgia pumped in to this show right off the bat, right out of the gate, first episode, already nostalgia driven. To me, I was like, this is very pleasant. I enjoy this. I hope the show is not all about this, but I enjoy this. I enjoyed seeing the Scranton building of where the office was. Bob Vance was cool. That area, just seeing that again in modern time was cool. It was nostalgic. Don't get me wrong, it was very cool. I was not annoyed by it. I welcomed it with open arms. I was like, yes, this is cool. I appreciate this, right? Because the office took place in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The paper takes place in Toledo, Ohio. So same general area of where both shows take place, similar areas. And, so quickly after the nostalgia trip, we get introduced to the characters of the paper. One being, like I said at the beginning, Oscar Martinez, who is not just a cameo, he's actually part of the cast, part of the paper. And throughout the first few episodes, he does talk about, like, I was interviewed before, I was in a documentary before, at my old job, I know what you guys are doing, I just want to talk about paper, that's it. Being like, I've been here before, I've been there, done that, we're not going to do it again. He's playing like, he doesn't want to be, interviewed in that type of way that he was all those years ago, which is funny. I like that. That was cool because, yeah, I mean, like that show, The Office, is so iconic, and part of that being iconic is because of the characters, like the main characters, but also the side characters. And Oscar Martinez as one of the side characters, like makes that show what that show was. Like Oscar Martinez was such an important character, and for being a side character, his importance to that show was like immeasurable. Like he was needed in that show because how he performed that role and the situations that the writers put that side character in those seasons of that show was just remarkable, incredible. Like some of the best like TV writing ever done is, and especially like in the terms of like comedy, is like in The Office. Like The Office was one of the best shows to ever air on TV. I remember watching that show as the episodes would drop weekly. Like it was like one of my favorite shows of all time. Like I'm not even kidding you. That show was detrimental to my development as a human being and how I viewed comedy and how I just how I, my standards of what made me laugh in a TV comedy was upheld by The Office, on just how funny it was, how awkward it could be, but also how brilliant the comedy was with all the characters that were involved in the show. So that's made very apparent that Oscar in the paper is aware of the documentary crew that filmed him, that is now filming his new show, and that which filmed his old show. So that's obvious right out of the gate, right? We get some new characters like new bloods. Domhnall Gleeson plays the main guy, the boss, the editor in chief of the paper. He's like an awkward dude. He's kind of weird. But what I've noticed is like the Office writers who are writing this show and wrote The Office. They're very good at showing like and writing out real world scenarios of like how an office type of work environment and the people involved and included in that would interact with each other like very well. Like Domhnall Gleeson is just like a weird dude, socially awkward dude, and just like kind of wants to do the best that he possibly can, while also like making sure like all of his writers are like backing him up, which is cool. But I feel like also that with the main character himself in Domhnall Gleeson and who he's portraying, his character Ned Sampson, um, is fundamentally unfunny, if that makes any sense. Like, Steve Carell played Michael Scott, who was objectively hilarious. Like, so funny. From what he says to how he delivers the lines to how he acts to how like over the top he could be, it was funny. It was just comedy. Like he played that so well. Like Michael Scott was a true idiot, right? But um Steve Carell played it so well and lended his comedic timing and tone and his delivery to that and just made it work. It was so funny on how like he just interacted with his employees in the office. And as far as I can tell, so far 10 episodes in, one season down, that does not really transfer from Michael Scott to Ned Sampson at all. Now, I don't know if that is, what they were trying to do is make an entirely different character from what Michael Scott was. I mean, I'm sure that's what they wanted to do. Congratulations if that was what they were trying to achieve. But at the same time, it's like the main guy is in a comedy series is not funny, which is, just kind of strange to me. Like he's just like an awkward dude, weird, awkward, kind of goofy, but just not funny. Like Michael Scott was funny. Leslie Knope in Parks and Recreation was funny. Ned Sampson in The Paper is not funny. It's weird. It's because everyone else is, the scenarios are funny, but like the characters are not funny, if that makes any sense. Michael Scott was just objectively funny. Kevin Malone in The Office was funny. Toby Flenderson, for all his stuff and everything that's in it, it's hilarious. There's a couple funny characters in The Paper. Like, I would actually say that one of the funnier characters in the show is Ken Davies. Ken Davies is like one of the bosses of like one of the bosses of I believe it's like the toilet paper company that's like that like shares the same office as the paper, the newspaper, the crew. He is funny. His character is funny, and he plays him. The actor who plays Ken Davies in The Paper is so funny. Like he for some reason, like that character, I feel like would have been perfect to be like the editor in chief of The Paper, but it's not. And like I can just tell that, whenever like Ken Davies' character, like whenever he's on the show, it's like it's just more funnier than when it's just Domhnall Gleeson's character. I don't know what it is. It's just like the characters themselves are not that funny. The situations are funny, but not as funny as they could be. And the characters are just like, I guess, just like too awkward. They're just really awkward that don't really, lend themselves to being funny. They're just awkward and weird. Awkward and weird is not funny. It's not comedy. I think that's what's kind of missing in this show is the straight up comedy, the laughs. Like I'm not getting a whole lot of laughs out of the show as I should be. It's a good show, don't get me wrong. I'm invested in like what's going on and the characters, but like it's just not a funny show. Like The Office was just it was just funny. The show so far is just very awkward. And maybe I'm getting it a little like maybe I'm like not remembering The Office as well as I should be, especially in season 1, because I love season 1 so much. Like it was incredible. But a lot of people when they saw it for the first time were like, this is a weird show, and did not like season 1. And I was like, how could you not like season 1? Season 1 has like Michael like going crazy and just insane, and everything about it was so funny. But people back then, when it came out, I remember, were not sold on season one, and that the show actually was almost going to fail because of season one being not very received all that well. But, hey, they got 8 more seasons after that, so I guess something might have clicked. But this show so far, it lacks in the funny department, and it doesn't lack in the awkwardness. The awkwardness is totally there. It's just like I'm not getting any laughs really from this series as I thought I would, coming from the writers of The Office. But I think because they were able to get the laughs in The Office because the main guy, Steve Carell, and his character, Michael Scott, just worked so well in that show. Whereas in this show, the lead character is just it's not as natural as it was in The Office. It's not as funny. And I think it's because they're just not making him funnier, because I think that they don't want to make like an Office ripoff, right? They don't want to cast Domhnall Gleeson to play another Michael Scott. I understand that. But I think that also, you kind of need to make your guy, your main character, more funnier than how he is right now. I'm just being serious. Right now, I just feel like he's not all that funny. He's a fun character to watch. He's a good actor. I think he's like Irish or like Scottish or something like that, and he's using an American accent pretty well. Like you can't even notice, like you can't tell at all that he's like, European whatsoever, right? He plays it very well. He's a very good actor. I'm just missing the comedy in it. There's no punchlines. There's no jokes. There's no funny scenarios that are like, just like that show the range of the comedic timing of any of these actors. It's just like very like, it's almost like kind of safe, if I'm being honest. It's a very safe show in terms of like the boundaries it pushes to make it funny. I don't know. I just feel like right now it's like, okay, it's an okay show. It's like not like top tier show that you should watch. If you like The Office, I think that you're going to be naturally pulled to it like I was. So, but if you're not, it might be a little bit harder of a sell to you than if you were an Office fan. If you were an Office fan, like myself, I was like, I got to watch this day one, when it comes out, which I did. And it took me a while to finish. I won't lie to you, but, I just feel like this show is a very niche show, which is what The Office was too. But also, I feel like, at the same time, you got to try to branch out and get a newer audience as well, and see and show other people what you've got. Because you already know, like when you guys were making this, you were going to get The Office fans to watch it either way. I mean, they were going to watch it regardless. Now you got to try to get newer people to watch it that have not seen The Office. I don't know. I just feel like it's a decent show. It's good. It is. It's got some through line plots, and it's got a good setting. It's got a good cast. They're just not very funny. I mean, they're just not all that funny. I'll be honest with you. Except for a few characters, there's a love interest in there, which is, I saw, as soon as I saw the first episode, I'm like, they're going to be a thing. Watch. They're going to make it so like they become like a couple or something like that. I knew it as soon as I saw it. As for like the predictabilityness, like that, to me, whenever like they like kind of like flirt with like a love interest or somebody, like you just like, I know it's gonna happen. I just know it is. It's like you can't fool me with that stuff. Like that's just gonna happen. Some of the side characters are pretty good. Like I said, Oscar is great still. There's a couple other characters in it that are very good. They're just not funny. It just that's just honestly what it is. It lacks comedy. It really lacks comedy. And it's a show that I would expect to not lack comedy, but it is lacking comedy. I think that they need to seriously up the comedy in if they get a season 2 in season 2. Like, it's a good show. It needs to make me laugh more, and it's not doing that. Partly because I think it's just a little too safe. I mean, dude, back in the day when The Office came out, season 1, episode 5, I want to say, Diversity Day, like, come on. Come on, guys. Like, I know it's in you. I know you guys can write a good bit on, those type of topics. You guys can do it. But you're too safe now. You guys are way too safe, and it's not coming across as funny. It's just coming across as weak, safe, awkward, and gutless, So I know that these guys can write a good comedic script. They can. Right now, they're just not doing that. They're just kind of playing it safe, making like a very neutral show that's not going to piss anybody off. There's some bits where they kind of go to a certain degree, but like they could go farther. They can. They just don't want to because they're afraid. And it's just like, dude, you guys are almost there. You're close. You're close to making a good bit here or a good scenario for the characters, but it's just not there. And it's not funny. That's the thing. It's not funny. That's like my biggest criticism right now of the show. It's just like, it really does lack comedy, which is like, dang, The Office had great comedy. Parks and Recreation had great comedy. This one I expect to have great comedy, and it does not so far. So hopefully it gets better. I mean, it's only 10 episodes for a season, which I don't like. By the way, like, this show is not like an hour long. Each episode's like half an hour. Like, why are we only doing 10 episodes? What the heck is this? Why? I don't get it. Like, I don't understand, like, why when we go to streaming services, the number of episodes for a traditional, like, 30-minute, window comedy sitcom gets only 10 episodes for a season when you're expecting, like, at least 22, the minimum, right? I don't get it. Why is it that streaming just, it just, like, they seem to just cut the amount of episodes you can put on there? Why? I don't understand. It might be like some like hierarchy executive thing that I'm not aware of, but sure, whatever. But like, come on, dude. Like, when you put out 10 episodes like that, it makes me feel like you guys are not trying hard enough on your episodes. Like, you only have 10 episodes, so make them worth it, at least, which they were not worth it. I mean, they were good, like I said, but it's like, there were so many things in there where you could have continued or kept going or made even better or made the jokes better. Like, you only had 10 episodes to get an impression. You could have used more, I don't know. I know the first season of The Office was 8 episodes, which, I guess, I don't know why it was that. Whatever. Back then was back then. Now is now, I guess I just wish that the show was funnier. Because if it was funnier, I would have been very happy with this show. Right now, it's all right. It's okay. Would I recommend it? Sure. It's definitely a fun watch. It's entertaining, but it could be a lot better. It could be so much better than what it is right now. We're going to move on to Gamepass, raising their price to $30. $30 a month for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is what I have, which gives me access to cloud gaming, downloading the newest titles that get released, major titles, day one games, being able to download day one games as they come out on Game Pass for $30 a month. I will say this. I did see this coming. I did see it coming. Why? Because there was only so much time that we would get when we could have all these games at our fingertips for such a low price. I believe currently I'm paying $15 for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I remember when it was like $5, which seemed like a long time ago, right? But now it's going up to $30 per month. Starting, I believe, next month, I think, or this month, I can't remember. But it's starting soon. It's coming soon. Pause. What are my thoughts on this? Well, like I said, I saw it coming. There was just only a matter of time before that they could get away with like having new games that are just released, brand new games, and put them on Xbox Game Pass day one of release, where you don't have to buy anything. You just download it. As long as you have the Game Pass subscription, you could just download it. When that was a thing, when that was being advertised, I knew for a fact that the days were numbered of how long they could keep the price at what it was for how much longer, right? There was just no way. When Starfield was going to be on Xbox Game Pass day one of release, I knew we were in trouble. I knew, because it's just like, you're not even giving the studio a chance to make money on this game with it being on Game Pass day one. No one's going to buy the physical copy. No one's going to buy the digital code. It's like, what are you doing? You know, how are these people going to make money? For the price of what Game Pass was back then, I think it might have been like $10, maybe $5. I can't remember, but like potentially $15. But it's just like, how are these people going to make any money? How are they going to continue to make games if the game is on Game Pass? And that was an Xbox exclusive. So that means they cannot rely on any PlayStation or Nintendo sales at all. That was all Xbox. So when you put their biggest game that they've made in a long time on Game Pass, day one, you don't even got to buy it. Boy, it's over at that point. I mean, like, that was the beginning of the end. They knew that they had to raise the price sooner rather than later. Like, that was like the first thing that you could probably point to, be like, uh-oh, this ain't gonna fly. This can't possibly fly. There's no way that this is gonna be allowed. And then it got even worse, right? Indiana Jones comes out last year. And that game is a big game talked about. You know, it's going to be an Xbox exclusive. It's going to be a big game. And that one is also going to be day one Game Pass. And we're like, hold on a minute. Like, 2 Bethesda games are on Xbox exclusive games, right? Day one on Game Pass. You don't even got to buy it. I remember at the stores, they didn't even have the freaking disc version of the game. It was all Game Pass. And I was like thinking to myself, like, how is this going to work? How are we able to do this? You know, it's weird because, like, I am a huge hater of Game Pass, right? I hate Game Pass because it's like Netflix. It's like it encourages you not to buy or invest your money or own anything that you want to own. It makes it so, like, well, I don't gotta buy anything. I just gotta subscribe to this gaming streaming service, and I'll just have every game that it lets me play whenever I want, even though if I don't want the game or not. You know, it removes your choice and your own decision making for you. It eliminates that. For a cool price of $30 a month, you don't have a choice. You won't choose, you won't think, you'll just play what's on the catalog. And you won't have any say in it. You'll just have to sit back and see what we got. And if what we have is what you want, then yippee. But guess what? You still don't own the game. If we decide to remove it from Game Pass, then we will remove it from your hard drive. Which is crazy, but that's true. That's what's happening. And you have nothing to say about it. You get no saying. When we take it away, we take it away. That's it. It's over. Right? They essentially gave you a huge library of games to choose from, right? As long as you don't make the choice on what game that you want to buy and invest your time in and play to your little heart desires, you don't get a choice. You just play what we got. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that wild? I mean, like, it's been a thing for years. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, like, it's all a thing that's been in a practice in business for a long time. It's just now very, very popular with gamers now. And don't get me wrong, I am a victim of this. Currently, I am playing Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut, on PlayStation Plus Extra. So, hey, hand up, I'm not perfect. I'm going to take advantage of when I can use it, right? Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of physical media, so I was wanting to buy the director's cut of Ghost of Tsushima for PlayStation 5, but I couldn't find it at a reasonable price online, and it was always, like a larger price from like third-party sellers. Like, no thanks, I'm not buying this. So I caved, and I got it on PlayStation Plus Extra, and I'm playing through it right now. It's actually a fantastic game. I've never played it before. I always meant to play it when I got a PlayStation, but I started playing it. I'm like, dude, this game rocks. This game is so good. But, moving on, it's not about that, right? It's about your freedom and what you want to play and what you choose to spend your money on. Your hard-earned money, what you want to spend it on, right? What you want to buy, what game you want to play, And to me, Xbox Game Pass is a threat to people's choices of what they want to play and what they want to spend their money on. And not just that for gamers, but for developers, publishers. Man, how are they going to make any money? Like I said, when Starfield was on day one Game Pass, I was like, whoa, this is wild. Then Indiana Jones, I was like, uh-oh, are we heading down a bad path? And even before that, Halo Infinite was day one Game Pass. And I was like, wait, who's going to buy Halo? No one's going to buy it. Why? It's on Game Pass. It's for free. It's like, and then you think to yourself, you're like, why is it on Game Pass? Is it a game worthy of purchasing? Is it a game worthy of spending money on? Is it? Or is it not? If it's not, then sure, it's on Game Pass, but is it worth it? I don't know. I really, really don't know. And then the nail in the coffin was just last year. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 being on Game Pass for free $99. Day one on Game Pass for free. You didn't have to buy it. You just got on Game Pass. That to me was just like, whoa. Okay, I know that Xbox now owns Activision. I get that. I understand that. But now we're at a point where it's just like, dude, when is the price hike going to happen? When is it going to happen? It's going to happen very, very soon. Okay? But when and how much? Well, my friends, now today is the day. It has happened. Game Pass is now $30 for the Ultimate Edition, which is by far still the most worth edition. I would still say that it's completely worth the $30. Completely worth that. I don't think that it's not worth it. I will tell you this. I think that it is fully 100% worth it for gamers. Right? It is. Think about it. The catalog, what you get, what games come out day one, yes, it's worth it. Sure. But is it right? Is Game Pass right? Is Game Pass ethical? Is Game Pass pro developer? Is Game Pass pro publisher? Is Game Pass pro business? For Xbox, yeah, it is. For everybody else, no, it ain't. It's not. Listen, you could say all you want about the price of video games, right? They're too high. The games aren't good enough. They're not fully completed games. They're not as good as they used to be. There are too many there are too many gigabytes. They're too big in space. They take up all my space. Good points. But at the same time, the practice of Game Pass and putting games day one on Game Pass is an even worse practice, in my opinion, because it gets us in the habit of having these games on Game Pass day one and expecting this to be available for me to play for free. When in reality, it's like that should not be a practice that we're used to. We should be in the practice of paying for something that is worth our money, that we would want to pay and purchase because we genuinely find interest in it and we want to spend our hard-earned money because the person making whatever it is that they're making, in this case a game, has earned our interest and earned our money. Thus, we are okay making the purchase to buying and playing that game. That's how it should be. That is how business works. You make something that people genuinely are interested in and want to buy. That's how it works. And when there's games on Game Pass, I'll be honest with you, when there's games on Game Pass and I look at the catalog and what's on there, I have never felt so turned away by games in my entire life. When you have that many games at your disposal, at your fingertips, that you can just download and play right then and there, I don't care what is on there. I find myself not wanting to play those games just because of how much are available. Like, it's just like, it's almost overwhelming. It's like I have so many games to play, so little time to actually play them. I can't afford to play any. Whereas if I make the time and the investment and the excitement builds and I want to go out and buy a game that I know I'm going to play that day and play, make sure that I play day after day, spend some time here, there, and make the investment in that game, I feel much better about myself and my purchase than just having it all on Game Pass. As a gamer, I feel much better in that way. I feel much more like I am contributing to the business of gaming and publishing and developing games in the gaming industry. And I feel like that actually makes me more of a, how do you say it? A citizen of gaming, right? A paying customer. I feel like I am that when I buy games, which is why I plan on buying the Ghost of Yotei on PlayStation 5 disc when it's available. I believe it comes out this week, I believe, or next week. I'm not too sure. So I am super excited for that, and I'm ready to spend the money on that because I fully believe that that game is going to be worth my time and money. So I'm excited for that. And these games are on Game Pass. I've already explained it. I just feel like it's overwhelming and I don't have the time to play those games, or I don't want to invest the time and money into playing games that Xbox believes is okay to be on Game Pass. I just feel like they're not worth it to me. They just feel like they're not worth it and worth me spending my money and time on playing them. So I feel like it's just, we're at a weird point right now in gaming. We're just at a very, very, very weird point where this is just, too much. I would say it's just way too much. And it just seems like it's kind of getting out of hand with what is available and what is on Game Pass versus what's not, what should be on Game Pass versus what should not be on Game Pass. It's like a ethical thing at this point now. It's like now I just, I was so against the developers and the companies that make the games, but now it's just like Xbox in particular taking advantage of these guys and putting their games on there for free is just like, I don't know. I'm like now torn. Like, who should I support now? You know, like, do I support the big head honchos, the Xbox and Microsoft, or do I support the guys that are actually making the games? Okay, moving on to now some sports. Just a couple news real quick. The Cleveland Browns have announced that Dillon Gabriel will be the Browns' starting quarterback. Now, this to me is just a crazy situation because, they started the season with Joe Flacco. 4 weeks of Joe Flacco at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. My question is why they even did that. I'll be honest with you. They won, what's the record? Did they win 2 games with Joe Flacco? Let me check that out real quick. But I want to say that they won either 1 or 2 games with Joe Flacco. But my question is honestly, like, why did you even start Joe Flacco? They're 1-3. They won 1 game with Joe Flacco. So my question is, like, why the heck did they even start Joe Flacco over who they drafted? And if you don't know who they drafted Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, along with having Joe Flacco and I believe Deshaun Watson is still on the roster. I believe he's not really an option at this point, but he's still there. That to me is just wild. It's such a weird thing to go through as a quarterback and as a team to have Joe Flacco, a quarterback who is established, and we like Joe Flacco, but he's obviously older and just not as good as he used to be. And they waited this long to make the decision to go to Dillon Gabriel, or maybe if there was even an option, would they even consider Shedeur Sanders? I have no idea. But nonetheless, they're going with Dillon Gabriel, which to me is just such a weird choice to make at this time, because you already know like what you got what you're going to be getting when you drafted Shedeur Sanders, and the backlash that you would receive by drafting Shedeur Sanders, and now you have Shedeur Sanders being the third string quarterback behind Joe Flacco and behind now Dillon Gabriel, who is the starter, right? This is such a weird situation for the Browns. So weird and so just why even draft this many quarterbacks? It almost seems like there was 2 people making draft decisions that day. It's a weird situation. I'm excited to see how Dillon Gabriel does in the NFL, but I'll be honest with you, man. I think that this is such a bizarre situation if you're Shedeur Sanders, and you're probably why am I even in the NFL? I could be starting at a college school somewhere and still playing, and I'm in the NFL, right? The league, and I'm not even starting. But honestly, it's because I also think that Shedeur thinks he's so good and so entitled when he's just he's not that good. He's entitled for sure, but he's just not that good. Obviously he's not, because he wasn't named the starter. If he was, he would have been named the starter. So it's the Browns just got a weird quarterback situation now. They already were walking into the season with a strange quarterback situation, and now it's just an even weirder one. Now that Shedeur is the number 3rd string quarterback. Very strange. I'm not going to be on here for much longer because my voice is just dying. So we'll move on to the Week 4 recap in the NFL. Let me see. A couple notable games that happened in the NFL. The Dublin game. The Steelers beat the Vikings 24-21. That game was close for a while, towards the end, but the Steelers ended up winning the game. I was not awake for this game, for it to be in Ireland. But yeah, I'm sure it was a pretty cool experience. Falcons beat the Commanders 34-27. That actually surprised me a little bit because I know that the Commanders did not have Jaden Daniels, but I did not think that the Falcons would score 34 points on the Commanders. That to me was kind of crazy. Texans beat the Titans. Both teams were struggling bad, had not won a game. The Texans needed to win this game, and they actually ended up winning it. And the Titans are a really bad team, a very bad team. Cam Ward plays okay, but it's just the team is just very bad. Patriots beat the Panthers 42-13. This one was a crazy game because I was like popping in and out of the games, and I saw that the Panthers were actually leading the Patriots 6-0 at one point. And I was like, uh-oh, what's going on? Because I had picked the Patriots to win, but they pulled away, and it was an easy win for me, easy pick. Giants beat the Chargers 21-18. Chargers lose to a bad team under a rookie quarterback. Justin Herbert didn't play his best, and the Giants get a win. That to me is a fluke game. I'll be honest with you. I mean, Jackson Dart played okay, not that good, but I think the Chargers just played worse, and I expect that not to happen again with a Jim Harbaugh team moving forward. Eagles beat the Buccaneers 31-25. Yada yada yada. We all get it. The Eagles are good. No one cares. Jaguars beat the 49ers 26-21. That to me was a game that I had picked the 49ers to win. Brock Purdy came back, and the Jaguars just ended up winning. The defense was really good. The 49ers just were not as good. Chiefs beat the Ravens 37-20. This was a surprising win to me. The Chiefs were pretty bad the first two games, and they won against the who did they beat? Can't remember. But then they beat the Ravens, and now it looks like the Ravens are in a little bit of a hole right now with their season. I believe they are now 1-3 at the moment. 1-3. And I remember like last week I saw some power ratings for the NFL teams, and they straight up had like the Ravens as like a top 5 team with a 1-2 record. That to me was a little stupid, condescending, and just really like, what the hell y'all doing with that? That makes no freaking sense. Bears beat the Raiders 25-24. That was a very close game at the end. And it makes me kind of sad that the Raiders lost because like they have just underperformed so much this entire season under a new head coach and new regime with Pete Carroll. And it's just like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys are grown men with a job, and you're 1-3, losing games pathetically, close, not close. Like, what the heck is going on? How could you guys allow this to happen? Rams beat the Colts 27-20. This game was much needed for me. Honestly, I was very, very furious the week prior when we had lost to the Eagles. So this win this week is truly, truly, truly incredible. It feels great. We could have lost it, but we didn't. Matthew Stafford is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best, in my opinion, at throwing the football. And our defense came in clutch. We had a couple scares there. They had some penalties that went our way, thank God. But at the end of the day, we ended up winning that game, which was, that was a must-win, can't-lose game, to a team that's actually playing very well in the Colts. Packers tie the Cowboys 40-40. That's all I'll say about that. Dolphins beat the Jets 27-21. Tyreek Hill goes down with an injury, a pretty severe injury. And it was weird because like he was like going at it off the field on the cart, almost like happy, elated, even relieved, like he does not have to play with Tua Tagovailoa ever again for the rest of the season, which is crazy, but he's kind of a crazy guy. So it's like not super crazy, but kind of crazy, you know? Broncos beat the Bengals 28-3. The Bengals season looks like it's over. Over. They did not play well at all. Could barely move the ball. Jake Browning started off pretty okay and then just went downhill after that. I mean, like the Broncos are a decent team, but the Bengals just they have no quarterback. So, you can't really do much with that. In that situation, you're just kind of like hoping that Joe could possibly come back, or like Jake Browning could kind of, lock in even more and try his hardest to get something going. But at this point, I'm looking at their team right now. I'm like, I don't know if that's even possible. I'll be honest with you. I think that their season might be over already. And that's going to be it for me today, people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. New episodes drop every Thursday morning. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate, review, and do all that good stuff. And yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see you guys next week.